I'm Allie.
I'm Nick.
And this is our special year-in review bookshelf. What have you tried? Yay.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
What's your New Year thing? What do you do? You don't stay awake. I seem to recall that you're not allowed to stay. No, just
stay awake until midnight.
All right, well, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
How was your 2024?
It was pretty good. Pretty good overall.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do some years feel longer to you than others? Because
Sure.
I feel like I was looking back at my books that I read in January of 2024, and I feel like it was 5 years ago that I read those books.
That was me in movies, but I know I always make an annual photo album.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, and I was looking this year because I was thinking, I could start putting together some of the big things that happened. And looking back, I was like, that was this year. That was this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So this was I think this was a long one.
Well, you had a lot of concerts and fun trips and stuff like that this year.
And it was an eventful year. That's for sure. Yeah. What would you like to talk about first?
Well, we've got books, movies, shows, and random things.
That's right.
Maybe we keep it old school, start with books.
Okay, and we've settled on a top 3.
I'm sneaking in an extra one. But
Right away. I'm
breaking the rules.
No respect
right off
for the
bat.
format. Okay. Well, all right. Let me give you. This is no particular order.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay. Of course.
One I read is called Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. We talked about this when I was reading it, and it is about this woman who she loses a parent, and she goes to this apartment complex that had meaning to her as a child, and she sort of moves into what was her mother's old apartment, and she has sort of vague phantom memories of this place, and she starts to kind of connect with the people around her, and there's a bit of a mystery about some of the people and the connections. There's some family connections. There's a vague ghost element to it that you spend the whole book being is this real? Is this not real? Is this real? Is this not real? And I don't know, something about it. I had never read this author before. It was one that I discovered on Libby. And honestly, it was a cover choice. I saw the cover, which is
and you were hooked.
Shades of blue and birds and things. And I was something about this appeals to me. And I read it and put the author on my list of books I want to try again from her. So yeah, I think it was good. It was just the right amount of, it wasn't this is a mystery. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't a whodunit. I wouldn't classify it as a mystery, but there were those elements.
Okay.
And it's not really a family drama, but there is family dramatics involved. It's really just more sort of about this person living their life, and that's the kind of book that I tend to gravitate towards, but I feel like that's hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And often it's a real tightrope walk of is this just boring? Am I just
is
reading
nothing
about
happening?
this person making a sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
This hit all those spots for me, and I do think that you would enjoy it.
Yeah, it does sound interesting.
So.
But I have to ask, and I probably should have asked this before you listed
Okay.
your first pick. What's your criteria when you're choosing top books, movies, whatever from the year?
Yeah.
Is it just the ones that stood out to you the most, the ones you enjoyed the most?
So usually when I've prepared these lists, I will go into my Goodreads and I will look at books I've read this year and look at how I ranked them in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll retroactively be no.
Why did I rate that that way?
Or
that
this
happens
book,
a lot.
there's a book that I'll maybe rate kind of low, and then the more time I have, I'll think back about it and be no, that was really interesting. Or vice versa. I'll read a book that I think, wow, that was great, and then I never think of it again.
Yeah, I feel usually when I finish a book, I'm on the high of that whatever, ending, as if it was satisfying. I'm very inclined to rate it 5 stars, and then sometimes later I'm that was 4 stars at best.
Yeah. So I think that's it. The initial impact that it has on me, it's how I feel, the writing was, the quality, and then just does it stick with me? I think that's probably the biggest. Did it make an impact?
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I think similar, kind of a mixture of the ones I enjoyed the most and the ones that I feel were most impactful, or that the most I'm still thinking about them here at the end of the year. These are the ones that are still kind of kicking around in my mind that I was I read or watched that this year and that was great.
Yeah. Okay. So give me one of yours.
Okay. Well, I have a number of series that stood out to me this year, as I always do.
Okay.
And I have to say that the Mistborn series definitely made the cut.
All right.
This is one that I was a little reluctant to read.
It's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment.
It's a long-term commitment.
It is a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a break before I read the second era. But
yeah. That's
I read the first era and I was delighted and surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
and it's inspired me to read more Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
This is a very nerdy thing to do. I saw recently this video of this woman online who's kind of like almost like a D&D influencer, okay?
Okay.
That in itself
Sure.
is a nerdy enough
A
thing
little
to
bit,
say.
yeah.
And she made a video where she created a D&D barbarian costume for a
Yeah.
Barbie that she had. And I was like, that seems cool and fun. I love to craft. So I made a Mistborn outfit for an old Barbie that I have.
Wow.
Like a mist cloak and these
Yeah.
like glass daggers. They're not actually glass. 'Cause
Okay.
I can't cut glass.
Yeah.
That's not a skill I have.
Huh.
So
You prefaced that by saying it was a really nerdy thing to do, and I thought I was prepared, but that's...
you weren't
I mean,
prepared for
I
quite how nerdy
appreciate
that
it.
is.
I mean, game respects game. I like it. I love
Yeah,
it for you.
I'll show you
but
pictures later. I think it
okay,
turned out
I
pretty
would
cool.
like to see. Yeah. Okay. Mistborn.
Mistborn.
All right. I'm going to pull a nonfiction. It's one that I finished not too long ago, and we did talk about it quite a bit, but it is An Ordinary Man by Richard Norton Smith. It's a pretty expansive biography on Gerald Ford. And, you know, we've discussed many times. I like my presidential memoirs and biographies. But this one, I felt like sometimes, you know, you start those and, you know, like you're 300 pages in and you look and you have like 800 pages to go. And it's like, no.
Oh, man.
You're
yeah.
praying that most of that is footnote. But this, I never really felt the weight of it, and it managed to keep the story like really flowing and dynamic. There weren't a lot of places where I was like, okay, all right, and then he was in Congress or whatever. You know, like it was written almost in a fiction kind of style. Like it
That's
just,
nice.
I don't know, it flowed really well. It encouraged me to pick up another one of his books, which I'm reading right now. But it's an older one, and it doesn't have the same like panache. So I might try one of his more recent things.
That seems like a
But
good choice.
yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was my standout nonfiction of the year.
Yeah, I love nonfiction that feels kind of like fiction.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's really.
I did. This is a nerdy thing for me to do.
Okay.
But I kind of synced it up with my Spotify, and so it was like, you know, the 1930s, and it would be like,
That is nerdy, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I do like
so
that.
whatever era I was reading Gerald Ford in, I was playing like music from that time, and so I created sort of a little immersive experience for myself.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
if you immerse yourself too much, you might just find
That's
yourself
right.
in that time.
And then I made a Gerald Ford suit for an old G.I. Joe that I had. So
it's all coming together.
well, what else you got? Because you said 4. So
I know. I cheated a little bit. I also, towards the end of the year, I know we talked about this, I think a bunch because I was reading so much of this, but I rediscovered the Betsy Tacy series
Yes.
that I loved so much as
I
a
do.
child.
I do
and
remember.
I found out that there's like 7 books I didn't know
Yeah,
about. That's a
that's a
lot
fun
of books
time.
I didn't know about.
Yep.
So I've been rereading those. I haven't finished them all. I've been trying to pace myself, but
Good
I
for
do
you.
feel like those made a big
good for
impression
you.
this year.
You really learned from your Louise Penny binge.
Yeah, well,
You
Louise
know?
Penny had a lot more books
Yeah.
to start with.
Yeah.
And also,
That's a good
she's
point.
still alive, so she's still writing them.
That's true.
That's not
That's a
something
difference.
that works
Yep,
with the
that's a
Betsy
big
Tacy
difference.
series,
Okay.
I'm afraid.
All right. Give me another one.
Okay. I feel like it's like Betsy Tacy was the latter half of the year, but the first half of the year was the Flavia DeLuce series.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which we talked about, which is the like, she's like 10 or 11 in Britain in like the 40s solving
Yeah.
crime with
I don't
amateur chemistry.
I don't want to read a book about a kid, I guess.
It doesn't feel like a book about a kid.
Okay.
She's like really snarky.
Yeah.
And she feels about other kids the way a lot of adults feel about kids.
You know,
guess.
I had read a while ago. I never finished it, but I like picked up and read the first several chapters of the first book in that series. And I do know what you mean because I did enjoy it. So, you know.
And I mean, like, there's a reason it's like in the adult category, not
Right.
the like
Yeah.
juve category
Yeah.
or whatever.
Okay.
But I think they're more fun than you
Okay.
maybe think they are.
It was hard. I mean, I respected the process and narrowed it down to 3. So I was a harder
Wow.
task for
Good
me.
for you.
But I'm going to go with a genre pick here, and that is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And again, this is one we discussed not that long ago. This was the one where somebody finds himself in a parallel universe, like a parallel version of their life, and is not quick on his feet to figure out what was going on. That was my one complaint. It was like, bro, look around you, okay?
Well,
Things
I feel
are
like that's
different.
one of those things where it's like so obvious for us as a reader, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, would you jump to that thought if it was your life and things were kind of weird?
But he was like a scientist who, even in the version of the life that he knew, had dabbled in that direction.
Okay, well, that feels like he should pick up on it.
Yes, I think so too. So that's the only thing that I will say about it. But it grows and grows and grows, and it becomes so unwieldy, and yet it never feels like it's going to collapse into itself.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's a hard kind of book to end. And I don't think I would give the end or the beginning like the full 100%, but very, very satisfying, very interesting read, and it made it, another author to add to the list. So that's so mine were Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen, An Ordinary Man by Richard Norton Smith, and Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. So what's your last book?
My last one is Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce.
Okay.
This was just,
All
it was
right.
just so fun.
Yep.
It's just everything I want from a cutesy little romance.
Yep.
The main character gets grounded and has to work at her dad's game store, and she ends up playing D&D with this other boy who works there and his friends, and they get in a whole fake dating situation, and it's just cute and fun, and I love to see D&D represented in a book. That's just a good time.
Yeah. I read, I have that sci-fi book club that I do with my friends, and one time we read a book that was based on the Star Trek Enterprise show, and it was truly half was the actual adventure they were having on the planet, and the other half was a D&D game that the characters were playing.
Oh my gosh.
And we were very split in the book club. Like me and my friend Graham, we were both like very into the D&D plot, and the other two were like, I don't want to hear about the game they're playing. So it takes all kinds.
Yeah, that is really
in
interesting.
this world.
So my top ones are Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce, the Betsy Tacy series by Maud Hart Lovelace, the Flavia Duluth series by Alan Bradley, and the Mistborn series by good old Brando Sando.
Brando Sando. Okay, where would you like to go next?
Let's do movies.
Movies. Okay, was this hard for you?
This was a weak category for me this year, but I think I came up with some good ones.
Okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that last year for your New Year's resolution, you said you wanted to use Letterboxd.
I know, and I used that until maybe March.
I know. I liked it. I liked seeing your stuff pop up. That's
I know.
okay.
Maybe this year I'll try again.
Oh, okay. Maybe this year.
Maybe this year.
All right, so I'm going to say my favorite movie of the year. I'm going to just lead with it. We talked about it almost a full year ago because it was one of the first movies I watched this year, and it's called If You Were the Last. It is sci-fi, but if you're not a sci-fi fan, forget that. Forget that I said that. Because it is Anthony Mackie and Zoe Chow, and they're in this spaceship, but the way everything is depicted, like space outside the actual ship, the controls, the monitors, the devices they use, is very cartoonish is not the right word, but like it is very much like just pretend this is space kind of thing. You know what I mean? You're not, nothing about it looks real or literal. It has
You just kind of suspend disbelief a little bit.
yeah, it's just sort of like, a purple expanse and like,
Okay.
it's almost like paper or something.
It just gives you the idea.
Yeah. And same with the ship. You don't really see that. And the initial premise is that they are just two scientists and they are on this thing and something is damaged on the ship and they can't find Earth. There's nothing wrong with the ship, but they're lost in space. And so they kind of become resigned to this. And then, their relationship develops in unexpected ways and some things happen with the ship. And the more grounded and real the story feels, the more the things you're seeing start to look literal, actual. It's this gradual slide into reality that I love when a movie can do something like that. It was really interesting. And at its core, it's just a relationship story between these two, like their friendship and the direction that it goes. So I think you would absolutely love this movie.
It does sound really good.
So, yeah, that's it. That's it for me for my number one. Do you have a favorite? Can you pull out a favorite?
I'm
asking too much.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
I think I'll say that my favorite is My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh, okay. I've seen it.
It's really good,
Yeah,
right?
it is. It's fun.
And we watched this for Corey and I had a little movie birthday party because our birthdays are close together.
Corey, who made all the music
Corey,
for But
who
Have
made
You
all the
Tried, who
incredible
has her
music
own
for But Have You
tracks on
Tried?
Spotify that you can
Yes.
listen right now.
The
Corey
very
Lund?
same Corey.
Okay.
I put together a list of movies and then had her pick because we were having a hard time jointly deciding. So that was the strategy.
Okay.
And this was the one she picked off the list. And I've seen a number of other Studio Ghiblis that I really liked and been meaning to watch this one for a while, but just hadn't gotten to it. It was so fun. And I have to say that the two little girls reminded me so much of my sister and I as kids. The way that they're just like, particularly the little one,
Yeah.
the way that she's like running around and like talking to her big sister and everything. I was like, man, I feel, I feel very seen.
Yeah.
So I think that was my favorite.
Okay. There's one that kind of surprised me, and it's called The Watchers. It's Dakota Fanning, and it's directed by Shauna Night Shyamalan, so not M. Night Shyamalan. And it is Dakota Fanning's character gets sort of turned around in the woods and finds herself sort of cannot get out of this wooded area.
Oh, no.
And so then it kind of slides into fantasy and like touches on horror. and it just really goes for it. Like once the premise is fully exposed, like what's going on, it's not like, oh, we're hinting at this. It's like, no, it's this. And I don't want to tell you because it's kind of a, it's a reveal
It's a
in
spoiler.
there. So like knowing what's going on, you spend a lot of time trying to figure it out because like it's very intriguing, but it doesn't make, like you cannot piece it together. So once you know, that's the point in the movie where like I might be skeptical and be like, no, that's dumb. This is not my jam. But it was my jam, as it turned out. And I was pretty impressed with it. I enjoyed it. And it straddled a lot of lines, the fantasy horror, the mystery stuff. Really good performance from Dakota Fanning. And that was maybe the one that surprised me the most that I watched this year.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I feel like the two movies you've both described, though, have, at least from what you've said, I feel like there's a certain similar energy going on there.
Maybe.
I'll have to, I don't know, we should study your
maybe
brain
the
waves,
things I'm
see if
pulling
there's
out
a
of
pattern.
them. But you wouldn't, I don't think if you watch those two movies, you would say, oh, they're alike. But
okay.
But
the
elements
elements
of what's kept from you and what you learn and how it changes your perception as you go. Yes, I see that.
Okay.
I see that. What else you got?
Okay, you're going to laugh at me for this one.
Oh, no.
Detective Pikachu.
Detective Pikachu?
Detective Pikachu.
Okay.
I had a great time with this movie.
All right.
The concept of being like, yeah, it's Pikachu and he's a detective. This is a movie. It sounds like, what on earth are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Why would that be good? But I don't know. It surprisingly was good. And I feel like the way that they mixed the Pokemon characters and the like live action humans worked surprisingly well. And they made the Pokemon surprisingly cute and not like horrifying and Uncanny Valley, which is definitely a extreme risk with that.
I think I only saw it once. I saw it at the drive-in, which we've established.
Yeah,
maybe.
no, that's a bad sign. You should probably watch it again at home.
But I just don't know Pokemon.
That's
like,
fair.
I just like the things didn't mean anything to me, like the Easter eggs or seeing things didn't mean anything to me, and I just kind of felt like Deadpool, but Pikachu, I guess, is what we're doing. It's just like Ryan Reynolds spitting them off.
This was like my
Didn't
year
work for
of
me, but
Pokemon
it's okay.
because I never really knew anything about Pokemon growing up or even recently. Like, I mean, I knew some of the
I know
like,
that you have to catch them all.
Right.
I do know that.
Right. You have to catch them all. And I knew some of the like basic ones like Pikachu, obviously, and like whatever, Charmander.
Yeah.
But I never really interacted with Pokemon at all. And then this year, I want to say pretty early in the year, my friend Richard was like, you love animals and weird little monsters. You would love Pokemon. Why is this not a thing? And he got this simulator on my phone where you can play like the old school Pokemon games.
Yeah.
And I did get really into that for a while.
Yeah.
I haven't done it for a little while because I've been busy, but I want to do that more. And I feel like that kind of that started a spiral effect of
I guess I'm surprised there wasn't like a Detective Pikachu 2 because I think it did pretty well.
Fair.
It seemed like there was a lot of hype around it. I don't know.
When did it come out? Maybe there still will be.
I mean, it's been a while at this point, but
that's fair.
maybe.
But I mean, The Incredibles happened, so
That's true. I've heard nothing about a Detective Pikachu, but I mean, I guess I'm not rolling in those Pokemon circles like you and your people, so I don't know.
We'll see.
My last one's a wild card. It's an out of left field choice, and that's Unfrosted, which is the Pop-Tart movie.
Oh, really?
On Netflix. Jerry Seinfeld, Amy Schumer. I mean, everybody in the cast. Every single person who pops up in that cast, I'm like, that's a hilarious person. And it is such a weird... I guess this was maybe my year of weird, because it is such a weird tone. Like, I would not say that it's a hilarious, like, laugh-out-loud kind of comedy. Like, I don't think that's really the vibe. But it's so unusual, and I really love a movie that's like tight and like very consistent internally. Like nothing happens in there that doesn't feel like, yeah, that makes sense for this kind of movie, So, I didn't know what to expect. My wife did not want to watch it, so I pressed play, and it was a bad attitude situation. She came around, and by the end, I was like, I think maybe I want to watch that again at some point. I haven't, but I liked it, and I think nobody liked it, and it vanished instantly. I mean, it's still on Netflix, but I don't think it really did much for.
See, I have kind of wanted to watch it, and the fact that you picked it as one of your 3 movies makes me feel like I really should.
I think there's a world in which you'll like it. I mean, Hugh Grant plays Tony the Tiger.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
It's hard to beat that.
It's good stuff. I don't know. I've yet to find another person in the wild who even saw this movie, let alone liked it. So
that's fair.
I have to stand alone, as I will stand alone on one of my TV shows, and that's fine.
Oh,
I've already taken some heat for it, and I just, that's
well, one of my
goes.
TV shows is Suspect too. So
okay, all right. Do you have a final movie?
I do have a final movie, which is the 1991 Addams Family, which I watched after we all know about my Wednesday obsession.
Yeah.
And this is the first genuine Addams Family thing I think that
Yeah.
I've experienced,
The whole crew.
other than just Wednesday.
Okay.
And it was really fun, and it made me respect the casting choices on Wednesday even
Yeah.
more than I already did.
Yeah. Okay.
No complaints.
Wonder how you'd feel about the old show.
I
like
don't know.
The 60s classic.
I'm kind
I
of
mean,
curious
it's-
about it now.
It's
I
pretty
feel
good.
like maybe I'm obligated to do an
That's
Addams
another,
Family
they
deep dive.
understood the assignment kind of situations because they are all just 100% locked in every situation.
That's
so
great.
I could see you getting in on it. All right, I'm going to tell you my suspect one, and that's Star Wars, The Acolyte.
Is that suspect, or is it just that I personally have beef with the Acolyte?
Nobody likes it. I mean, people do, like on the internet, like on Blue Sky and places like that. There are people who like it, but I don't know anyone. I mean, my wife liked it, and honestly, my opinion of it rose greatly when I binged it for a second time while homesick, because there's so many moving parts, and once you know the end, it makes the beginning better, and you see all these little choices, and you see these steps happen, and you're kind of like, oh, look at that. That's a tell. That's obvious. And I really, really liked that. And again, I don't feel like, it's too bad that it was canceled, and it's too bad it's seen as like a negative thing, but it works very well as a standalone thing too. And I know there are 2 novels like set in that continuity coming out.
Are you going to read them?
I am, yeah, but I don't think they're continuations. I think they're just kind of
They're
using
just kind
those
of in
characters.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I do a Star Wars podcast with my friend. We did our Life Day, our Christmas episode, and so I had 2 of my good friends who we've all like watched Star Wars together for decades at this point, and they were both like, no. One is like, I fervently hate it, and the other is like, I just don't get it. I just don't like. I don't understand the appeal, So
I almost really liked it, but I do feel like they just dropped the ball a little bit at the end.
I don't think so. I think you should watch it again.
Maybe, but probably not when I'm sick, because I'm sure that will negatively
won't
impact
help.
my opinion
That
of
won't
it. I'll
help.
be
Get
like,
yourself
not
some
only do
tea.
I feel bad for
Yeah.
watching this.
Get yourself some tea and just become a blanket and rewatch The Acolyte.
We'll see.
And I bet
Maybe
you'll
it'll
feel
happen.
differently.
Maybe
I
it'll
do.
happen.
I think you will. What's your suspect choice?
My suspect choice is Bridgerton.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Because we can roll back the tapes of you being like, meh, 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 meh.
Right.
You weren't-
Well, you remember how when I started watching this
Yeah.
year, I was like, this is an embarrassing moment and
Oh, I
confession
do.
for me.
Yeah, I remember.
But I do feel like this is one of the shows that made the biggest impact this year.
Okay.
And despite myself, I did really enjoy it.
Look at you.
And I'm curious about what
Wow.
will happen in season 4.
Yeah. Season 4.
I know.
Wow. I guess I didn't realize it was that long.
There's 3 seasons already, and they're working on
Huh.
the 4th. Well, there's
Okay.
like 8 siblings who
Gotcha.
all have their own books.
Steamy books.
Steamy
Have
books.
you read any of the Steamy books?
No, I'm
Okay.
kinda
So
scared
it's
to.
Julia Quinn, right? I think we have a lot of
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Although I feel like it is easier to skip that part in a book than in a show, so maybe
Yeah.
I would have a better
No, you
experience.
gotta own it. You gotta own it.
No, I can't. I can't do it. I don't like
All right.
it.
So Bridgerton.
So
Okay.
in theory, maybe they'll make 8 seasons. I
Okay.
would be surprised if it pushed that
I think
far.
as long as money is being made,
yeah.
they'll
Well, and
probably
it seems like the enthusiasm for it so far
keep
is pretty
rolling with it.
strong.
Yeah,
And they're almost halfway there.
I watched the first episode, and it wasn't like I hate this. My wife cares more about that kind of thing than I do, and she was like, the faux Regency stuff. She just couldn't.
I know.
She couldn't get over that hump, and I didn't care to push it. So like, we never went back.
I
But-
feel like, because that was kind of part of why I was against it
Yeah.
for so long. And I feel like once I accepted that it's just like so incorrect
Yeah.
that you can just accept it as an entirely different reality, I was able to get past that.
Okay. I have. So I mean, I yelled at you for having 4 books, but I have kind of like a 3-way tie for my second option.
If you need to put in
here.
a 4th,
Okay.
I'll
No.
permit it.
I have a 3-way tie for my second slot.
Oh, okay.
because
So you need to add two more.
there were 2 rom-coms that I've already discussed in detail, so I won't do it again. But Colin from Accounts, Australian show about these 2 people who end up taking ownership of an injured dog and then having this really nice relationship, is just grade A, and you have to watch it. It's on Paramount Plus. The other is Nobody Wants This, which is Adam Brody and Kristen Bell, which is on Netflix. Also,
I will
grade A,
watch this. I swear to
classic
you.
rom-com.
I
good.
tried. I was busy. I had a headache, but
Yeah.
I will watch this.
Okay.
By
All
the
right.
end of 2025, I promise you.
And the third one that's tied for slot 2 in my like romantic sitcom slot is one called Uncoupled, which is Neil Patrick Harris. It was a Netflix thing, and then Showtime picked it up after Netflix canceled it, and then Showtime canceled it, so it never got more than 1 season. So I don't feel like I can give it a full slot. But it was really good work from Neil Patrick Harris. It was about his partner of a long time. Just is like, I'm done. No explanation. Just like boom. And so Neil Patrick Harris is like, what? And has to start over. And
Is that the guy from How I Met Your Mother?
yeah.
Okay, I feel like
Barney.
I saw a trailer or something
Yeah.
for this, and it looks fun.
Yeah, it's good. Or Doogie Howser. You can ask your parents. But that was a lot of fun. And it set up a lot of storylines that I think a season 2 would have been great. And it just fizzled. Never happened. So that's my number 2 slot. My romantic sitcom.
Man,
section.
you're ranking the TV shows here.
Yeah,
I don't know if I have a top.
That's okay. You don't have
They're
to do
just in no particular order.
that. Okay. What else you got?
Okay.
Marvelous Miss Maisel. Are you going to give it a slot?
That wasn't this year, was it?
Your rewatch. You were rewatching
Oh,
still.
that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't really do rewatches for any of mine because it felt like cheating to me, I guess.
Same with me for movies because there's lots of movies.
Yeah, there were some other movies that I rewatched too, but it's like I feel like if we've already talked about, Wednesday and Stranger Things and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in
we
extreme
can't do it.
detail.
Yeah.
I mean, like why
Yep.
why keep going and remind
make
our
a good
listeners
point.
yet again that those are really good shows
make
that
a good
everyone should
point.
watch.
Yeah.
But I did pick one that we have been watching and watched more of, which is because the final season came out of Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois. Yeah. I thought about it.
You thought about putting that?
Yeah. But this final season just really didn't land for me.
It was mostly fine for me except for that weird epilogue.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Lex was such a late addition, and to make the whole final season so Lex-centric and really not give him anything to do but be mad at Lois. I don't know. That's how it felt
That's
to me. I just didn't really feel like he had. It wasn't like, oh, look at all these Luthor Corps things, or look at all these, And I know their hands are tied because it's like, basically a mercy that they even got the 10 episodes that they did. But
yeah, it's true.
I don't know. It's just not what I liked about the show, to have it be so villain-centric and very little Superman.
Well, and it was weird also that I feel like there was a point where they basically like fixed all their problems, and then it was like, oh, just kidding, all these things
And then
are
we
still
started
problems.
it. Yeah, we just
and
restarted
I was like,
it. I know. I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a little weird to
Yeah.
me in the epilogue where they
The
choose
epilogue is-
actors for adult people that don't look anything like them.
Was
a weird time.
Was a swing.
It was a weird time.
Was a
Caleb
real
was like,
swing.
if we ever rewatch this, we should just stop before that point.
Yeah.
And then pretend
Yeah.
we're good. That's it.
Yeah. It is strange. I was more open to it, I think, because I had just read Superman Secret Identity,
Mm-hmm.
which it clearly is pulling from. So I was a little more primed, I think, to be open to that. And the show, I love his portrayal of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the all-time greats. So I probably should have put it in there, but the final season just didn't.
Well, that's okay. I represented it
Thank
for the
you.
two of us. So
Thank you. Okay. I really struggled on the last slot here because I realized I watched the Cobra Kai series this year, like in 2024, like all 6 seasons. And my love for like probably seasons 1 through 3 is really hard to remember based on the lackluster, it just went for too long. It's like, how
That's
many
hard.
karate wars can these teens
Yeah,
have? How many
yeah.
problems can be solved by karate war? And the 6th season, they split it into 3 parts. So
like
it's
for
like,
releasing, like a
yes.
chunk,
So it's
a
like
gap.
the first 5 episodes and then like 4 months. And then the next
Ooh.
5 episodes and like 4 months. And so the last 5 probably are coming out sometime next year, 2025.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like splitting a season of television into 2 parts is already a little bit like,
Well,
what
it's
are you
old school.
doing?
I mean, that used to be kind of a thing. You'd have this hiatus where, you'd have reruns for 4 weeks or something like that, but not 6 months or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bananas. So,
well, there's some of them like with like Stranger Things season 4, and like they did this I think also with
Yeah.
Bridgerton season 3, where it's like they're trying to kind of build up hype in between,
yeah.
but like 3 sections. Why?
Yeah. But the problem, I think, with this is that it's run its course. So
Yeah.
to
You
have...
can't build up hype
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to watch the last episodes, but I don't even know, 8 or 10 episodes that are out of season 6. I've largely been like putting on and being like, okay, all right.
Is this
all
the
right.
final season?
It is
or?
the final
Okay.
season.
Well,
Yeah.
You only have
So,
a little bit left. Then.
I know. So I don't know that I can put that in the slot, but I would definitely put seasons 1 and 2 in the slot. But I'm going to give it to Young Sheldon. Did you ever watch Young Sheldon?
No, it does look fun, but I haven't watched it.
I was reluctant on The Big Bang Theory at first, and then I watched an episode at my wife's cousin's house, and then we were kind of like, oh, maybe we should watch this show. And then we got into that, and I enjoyed it. I don't know that that's a show that I would rewatch. But Young Sheldon spun off, and I remember being like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, why would you ever? I don't want to watch that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it switches from a multicam sitcom to like a single cam, like more shot like a movie kind of sitcom. And it's just a completely different type of storytelling. And it managed to be this really rich cast. And I don't know. I was really impressed with it and thought that they really nailed an ending. And now there's a spin-off that, we've been kind of watching too. It has not reached those heights for me. But yeah, I think Young Sheldon, if you don't have to know anything about The Big Bang Theory, and I don't really think you would like The Big Bang Theory, but Young Sheldon is just like a good, like the full family sitcom where like every family member kind of has their own thing going on, and the kind of stories you can tell with those different characters in different stages of life. I just think the writing was really sharp and it did not overstay its welcome, unlike Cobra Kai. So Young
Nice.
Sheldon. Yeah.
Good for Young Sheldon.
All right. I'll bring it home. What do you got?
My last pick is The Odd Couple.
Really?
Yeah. I was looking back over the TV shows I watched this year, and I do feel like this one really stood out.
And
I had
that
a
was
good
about
time.
Have You Tried?
That was
Wow.
about Have You Tried?
Wow. How did you watch? You watched the whole first season. Did
I watched
you go
the whole first season.
Beyond?
I haven't found a way to watch Beyond.
Oh,
I would
that's
like
true.
to.
That's true. I had
But
to
I
buy
need to
it
do some sleuthing.
digitally. But
Man,
the only
that's
thing,
legit.
yeah, I know. But I do have that first season on DVD, which I think is how you watch most of it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great show. I just watched an episode recently when I had like 20 minutes or something. I was like, I'm gonna watch that. Well, that warms my heart.
Someday I'll find a way to watch the rest, I'm sure.
Okay. And now, I mean, I guess it's just kind of like your top 3 anything goes.
Yeah, the
slots.
whatevers.
All right, hit me.
Okay, well, one of my whatevers is I discovered the band Kaladua, which is an Irish band.
Okay.
And
that's different from Jens.
yes, that's different from Jens Lekman.
There you go, Jens Lekman. Okay. All right, I did find those albums.
Okay,
and
good,
I have
good.
been listening.
I'm
so,
glad. I'm
yep.
glad to hear it. But I love Irish music,
I
and
do.
the High
We have
Kings
a
I
whole
feel like
episode on
has
it,
usually my top for that.
Yeah.
But I found this band, and I really like a lot of their stuff. One of their songs was my Spotify top song.
Okay.
So
I saw that in the library Discord there,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't know what that is. I've never
Yeah.
heard that. So
it's
okay.
definitely because I was in the like top 0.01 of listeners or
It's
something
just
like that.
you and their mom, probably.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
That's
wondering.
cool.
I was like, I feel like this says more about the smallness of the band than how much I'm listening to them.
Don't sell
but
yourself short.
I was
I bet
listening
you
to them a
listen to it
lot.
a lot,
I did
yeah.
listen to it a lot.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun discovery for me.
Okay. Well, you mentioned at the top that I did some traveling. I saw some cool things this year. We have been planning like a big trip for years at this point, and we finally did it. And we went to Iceland and London, which I talked about pretty extensively. But the trip to Iceland in particular, I feel like was just such an eye-opening thing. It was just so different, and the way we were able to experience like the city elements and the museum and the culture, as well as just natural like wonders, really, like seeing all the different landscapes. And that just really was impactful, and it was cool to be able to take our son to do that. So that's definitely right up there, tip top.
That's a good choice.
What other in your hodgepodge list?
In my hodgepodge list, well, we already talked a little bit about how this was the year of Pokemon.
Sure.
And that was one of the other things I was going to mention is that I was playing Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Snap more recently, which Caleb
Pokemon
got
Snap,
out from the
yeah.
library for me.
Yeah.
And that's been a fun thing to discover that I didn't really do Pokemon before, but
Yeah.
this has been the
Okay.
year.
The year of Pokemon.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few fun reunions this year. So this is my number 2. So first, my little sister, she lives in Salt Lake City, and was just like, we're both from Michigan. We're never like in the same state at the same time. And she flew out this year and stayed with us like for a week and hung around. And so that was super cool to have her out here and spend time with my son and just, be together was really cool. And then my brother, who started a truck driving thing, has had some roots that have taken him through here. So he's been able to come out to New York a
that's
couple
great.
of times, which is like a random, like literally a half hour, like at the Dunkin' Donuts in Belmont. Like I'll go as he's passing through and we'll just like have a donut and I'll be like, okay, see you whenever. And then we had an impromptu college reunion, the only way that I would be interested in a college reunion, which was we all played the video game that we played on our dorm floor 20 years ago over Discord and Steam. So that was super fun. And that kind of rolls into my last one, which was my son and I went to New Jersey to see the Rolling Stones. And I also got to see my friend Steve, who was in my wedding, a great college friend of mine who lives in Jersey. So my son and I saw the Rolling Stones. We went to Red Bank. He saw the ocean for the first time. And I got to see my college buddy Steve, who I haven't seen in 5 years.
That's
So,
a lot of great
pretty
readings
good.
for you.
So I sped through all of mine. So give me, what do you
Okay,
got?
well, my last pick
Okay.
is, I think I'm going to say, finishing the boarding school mystery novel that I was writing,
Yeah.
which I started in 23.
That's a huge accomplishment.
And I was
Yeah.
working on it really hard all winter, which is kind of the worst time to try and write because on the one hand, nothing's going on, so
Yeah.
you've got time, but on the other hand, it's dark and
Yeah.
miserable and cold and you're miserable.
Yeah.
But I finished that this spring and have been editing it like crazy, and I feel very satisfied with it.
Yeah. That's
So-
exciting. That's exciting. I hope this time next year we're talking about your pirate novel.
I hope so too.
That's what I want. I want to know. How's Grandpa? Is he?
We
You're
still
not
don't
gonna tell me.
know.
Not going to tell me.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a
that's fine.
surprise.
Okay. Well, we hope everybody had a nice holiday and a happy new year. And remember, in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about. I remember the name of the person that we're going to be talking about, but I think you should say it since it's your pick.
It's Jens Lekman.
Yeah,
But it's
Jens
spelled with
Lekman.
a J.
Spelled with a J. Yeah. So that's what we're going to be talking about next time. And I guess that's it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So long.